Amidst the whirlwind of digital revolutions and geopolitical machinations, the world has witnessed the emergence of a new class of weapons. Those harnessing the very power of energy itself. Once relegated to the realms of science fiction and covert labs, these armaments are now at the very forefront of military arsenals, offering the promise of precision strikes without the fallout of conventional warfare. But beneath the technical marvel and touted advantages lies a web of intrigue. What forces drive the rapid advancement of these energy-based tools of war? Are they merely the next evolution in defense, or do they herald a darker age of conflict, where unseen and undetectable beams can target infrastructure, machinery, or even the human mind? This case file, join the theorists as they pierce the veil of secrecy, delving deep into the pulse-beaming world of directed energy weapons.
Welcome to Alien Theorists Theorizing Case File 291. Directed energy weapons. I'm Braden.
I'm Zell.
I'm Dan. And I'm Andrew.
Pew, 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 pew.
Your space lasers out.
Oh, yeah.
It's time.
Get your space lasers.
It's time to uncover the truth. It's been pulled over everyone's eyes.
Hey, Star Wars was a documentary.
Death Star?
It's real.
It's up there. What do you think the fucking moon is?
100%.
Just wait.
A giant
That's no
fucking...
moon.
That's no moon.
You know what it is? You know what it is? It's reflecting the sunlight into focused energy
laser point.
Have you ever been wondering why we're having all these super moons and blue moons and red moons and blood moons?
Charging up.
Right, it's charging up, right? There's been so many. It's like every couple weeks.
It changes colors just like a sane as they power up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been all the talk. It's been all the talk of the internet for a while, but primarily now since the Maui fires, the term directed energy weapon seems to be thrown at everything. Everything is being incinerated from laser weapons from either space, drones, ships,
well,
wherever.
And I mean, specifically, we're talking about like, you know, the Maui fires, and then we're talking the fires in Kelowna, and basically all summer. I mean, everyone was complaining. Canada was on fire. What did we ever do to, you know, to be the subject of all these directed energy attacks?
No, Canada was on fire, and we never hear it in the news. But Africa had also a record fire season. Just thousands and thousands of fucking fires.
Africa's always on fire.
Just absolutely incinerated, and you never hear about it. And then you looked up active wildfires, and I looked at Africa. I was like, Jesus, the whole fucking thing is just on fire.
Now, it did bring up, like, I was kind of thinking about this before of like, you know, if this technology is being used, and I was like, I know a lot of the Maui stuff is like, it's the elite, right? They're the NWOers doing this. But I'm like, even if it was just like, if you think about like how devastating, if you were a foreign country and you had some sort of technology just to start a fire from space, and you're just like, hey, this area has high winds and it's their heat season. Why don't we tie up a ton of their resources and money in having them fight forest fires? And we're just going to light a forest fire and, you know, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Like, lightning strike. Who knows, right?
I mean, it's not.
I was kind of thinking about that. Like, would that be used? Would a foreign, nation kind of do that to each other?
Especially so just like a slow bleed, as opposed to, I don't know. I like the idea of people in the shadows pulling the strings, trying to turn Lahaina and Kelowna into 15-minute cities. That's way more mysterious.
Yeah. Kelowna one really backfired on him because they didn't even get close.
Yeah, because we were fucking ready.
We were coordinated. Unfortunately, those The local government,
Listen.
just like government of Maui itself, seemed to be very underprepared for a severe forest fire. When you look at it, you're like, Jesus.
Well, I mean, like, can you blame them? That's not really like we are on fire every year. Every time this year, we are on fire.
I know, but they've had many fires before, and just the road system. And I've been to Maui. Yeah, they have. Not obviously not like us.
I would never have thought like such a lush place so close to water.
Well, they have an invasive species of this grass that if it doesn't get water like every day, turns brittle and bone dry. But I've been to Lahaina, and there's it's pretty much one road in and out, north and south. So if something happened on one of those exits, like there's...
Is that like most of Hawaii though? It's not like...
Well, I've only been to Maui, so it's all like, I can only... Yeah, it's mainly like a road around, and then there's a couple...
like Oahu, there's just like road that goes around, and there's like one or two that cross like diagonally.
That's what I mean. So they're not
that's all you get.
prepared for that type
mass
of
exodus,
mass evacuation, like on a notice like that. But it's sad. But
if we're talking about 15-minute cities, like Kelowna's traffic is so fucking bad. I think everyone would welcome a 15-minute city rather than have to drive
it's
over that
15
fucking
minutes
bridge.
between lights every day.
Yeah. So like I said, I don't think that's such a bad idea as they're painting it out to be. For this week, I did something that I haven't done, and I don't know why I've never really thought of this. I didn't go on a lot of YouTube. I didn't go on a lot of Google. I went a lot of Rumble because something clicked in me. I went, oh yeah, why would I look at YouTube where everything's heavily censored by the people that don't obviously want me to know about directed energy weapons when I can go on Rumble where there's fucking no rules and I can watch every kind of unhinged video about directed energy weapons known to man. Some of my favorites is just this old guy watching videos of lightning, and he's just going, directed energy. And then at the end, he goes, how many times am I going to have to fucking come over to your house and clang your balls together so you know if you get that COVID shot, you're dead. And then it goes directed energy weapons, and then the video is ending, and I sat in my chair.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit,
you couldn't get him for an interview?
Coaster. What a roller coaster.
We probably could. We could reach out.
Yeah, we should get him for an interview.
Get him.
Let's go.
Anyways, we're talking about directed energy weapons, but what that exactly is a whole host of potential technologies ranging from ancient to modern lasers.
Alien?
Like it's just like, it seems to be a catch-all phrase for just like something that is sci-fi pretty much. They're shooting it from space. It's fucking directed energy.
Except for they're
lasers.
real.
They are, but
real.
there's so many of them. So let's start there. Let's start with why. What's a directed energy weapon?
So there is a legal definition of directed energy weapons because like at least in the United States, the United States Congress has had to define directed energy weapons, like the use and development of it, in conjunction with like the U.S. military and things like that, and their uses of like what is the appropriate use or what you can develop directed energy weapons to do. So there is like a framework for like what exactly it is. But like you said, yeah, directed energy weapons, as far as what we're kind of going to cover, it's kind of just a lot of anything. So it's like pretty much in any sense, if you can project heat and into a point, then that's a directed energy weapon.
Some sort of energy.
Like a magnifying glass with the sun going through it is directed energy
to
weapon.
ants, that's a directed energy weapon. That's a fucking death
That's
ray.
a fucking death ray, yeah.
Your buddy's sleeping. You go up with an air horn, blare it right in his ear. He goes deaf. Directed energy.
Directed energy weapon.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it can be laser, related, where it's directed, light and energy, and then it can be like sonic, ultrasonic, anythings like that.
Microwaves
microwaves. Any type of. Pretty much any type of, well, those are all types of energy. So it's just, directed energy weapons.
A broad term.
Yeah. Boom.
But
you don't like someone, you punch him in the face. Boom. Directed
energy.
Oh, yeah.
For this, it's like we're mostly playing, and most people recall when we did an episode on Nikola Tesla, right? And we talked about we eventually touched on his death ray, the Tesla death ray, the infamous Tesla death ray, where he claimed that he could build a type of weapon that would be able to project some type of radiation or beam that would be able to destroy aircraft and entire armies and swathes. And just be able to, it would become the ultimate deterrent for war is kind of his idea.
It was like hit before the atomic bomb. It was his death ray. That would be like, I will give this technology to all nations, and all nations will be able to destroy each other at any time. Therefore, there'll be no war.
Yeah, never exactly materialized that we know of. And so, that's kind of one of the more famous things. But if you even go back further in history and you go back into even like mythology and folklore, you can find examples of what seem to be, or can be interpreted as directed energy weapons. One of the ones that one of the more famous ones is everybody's like favorite Mythbusters episode is the one with Archimedes' death mirror. Like his, you can look up the Archimedes death mirror, whereas it's a type of weapon that it said like it's kind of part of legend, and also kind of a matter of historical debate of whether it actually existed or not. But the tale comes from the siege of Syracuse, which is during the Second Punic War, and so Roman forces were actually trying to conquer the city-state of Syracuse. So Archimedes, the famous Greek mathematician and engineer, was said to have developed a type of weapon that was going to be able to like. Since the Romans had such a huge and overpowering navy, like it developed so it would like focus, like you take a number of bronze mirrors, like a large number of bronze mirrors, put them on a type of, basically an array, on a kind of dish. And then you would be able to focus the sun and, manipulate that energy into being able to focus it over long distance and be able to set the Roman ships ablaze before they even set foot there.
Scorching ships from before they could even get to close to land.
No, are we sure we're scorching ships? Are we scorching ships, or is it just like the equivalent of driving without sunglasses? Like, what are we talking?
Just blinding them.
Yeah. And then you run your ship
to the ground. Super high beams.
Just crash into the nearest rock.
Now, what was the Mythbusters on that? They said that they wouldn't have been able to do that.
They weren't exactly able to do it on their things, and I think also
it's not Archimedes.
I mean, there's a lot of challenges to it. It's like basically scaling it, and then there'd be a lot of variables involved, especially ships.
I was reading this thing about Archimedes' mirror weapons and stuff, and it was going through history about like how at the time of his death, like there's like written history of like the idea of that weapon being utilized for other facets, like they were using it for cooking, right? But like nowhere near did they say like, oh, they would harness it for weapons, but they were like using his Archimedes kind of same ideas and principles without naming Archimedes. Obviously, he's separated, using it for cooking and stuff. And
should have copyrighted that shit, Archimedes.
Yeah, so like people are kind of like, well, maybe it's just something that was lost in time, right? Some sort of technology that was lost in time.
It's like the George Foreman grill, but from Archimedes.
And there's like a couple of
Archimedes grill.
Like just a couple other interesting ones that popped up for me was like the Israelites. How do I say it?
Israelites.
That's the one. Yeah. Israelites at the Battle of Jericho, right? They
going right to the Jews, are you?
Huh?
Going right to the Jews.
They haven't. The Jews, they got the energy weapons. They were walking like during the Battle of Jericho. They marched around the walls with horns and the Ark of the Covenant, and the walls just fell. Right, so it's like
what you're saying is the Ark of the Covenant was the first circumcised space laser.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a different type of weapon though. That's kind of like Tesla's earthquake machine. That's like manipulating frequency of matter to make it crumble. That's kind of like the 9/11.
I think it was just it did whatever you wanted it to do.
If you could focus on
melting Nazis' faces.
Yeah,
I've heard of that one too. But I just want to quickly go back to the death ray and Mythbusters. Because if you search the internet, like, is the death ray possible? And like, well, the Mythbusters were unable to do it. It's like the Mythbusters work out of a fucking garage with duct tape and like not a huge budget. And you're like, if that was scaled up and you actually put engineers behind it and had the perfect mirrors, because people have done it at small scale where they crack bowling balls. So if you had the money and the technology to make these giant mirrors that would focal, like put 100, like say like 100 meters a focal point where like 1,000 mirrors would focus the energy, 100% you could start fire with it. There's no doubt about it. But just could you do it to a moving ship?
On what scale?
That just came over the horizon? I guess, yeah.
So
I mean, who knows?
There's a guy, Manuel Gomez, and in like 1904 at the St. Louis World Fair, he like unveiled his device called the Pyrheliophorus, and basically it was a mere device that could superheat an object to 3,500 degrees.
Oh shit!
And he has a patent. There's a U.S. patent on it. The U.S. patent is U.S. patent number 797-891. And like the United States legit wanted this from him. They wanted the patent. They were like offering him a citizenship, and he was like, "No, I'm not interested." And the machine was stolen.
Oh,
like
shocker.
legit lost in time, not talked about anymore, and stolen. Like his one working model got stolen while he was in the States after the World Fair, and they don't know. And this thing was like, and he could, it was like a parabolic array of mirrors that concentrated sunlight to a common point, and it would heat up to 3,500 degrees.
For sure.
It's crazy.
People have done it,
right?
But only at short scale, as far as we know.
Yeah. So it's like, like, and that's again short scale, but like if you could,
you can
have
burn
something
the
where a focal
shit
point
out of an
further out.
ant with a fucking.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Think it from 6 inches away, you can just
Barbecue.
melt that fucking thing.
Sad.
Sad, but everyone
Melt
fucking
the
did it as a
ground
kid.
they walk
Yeah.
on.
You are God with a fucking death ray to that ant. Like you were just
yeah.
fucking bang.
You are Archimedes.
You are.
Well, that's an interesting thing too, because like now that we say like it's been one of the things has been that short area where these things have only worked. The other thing I quickly wanted to touch on, like for ancient kind of evidence of this kind of stuff, is like vitrified forts. Like I kind of went down a rabbit hole of vitrified forts. Like these things are like, and the cool thing about the vitrified forts is like at first they thought they were only native to Scotland, and they're these like stone structures that started in Scotland that have been melted.
Yeah,
right?
by dragons, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah, dragon fire.
Like, come on.
Well, and it's like they've figured out they don't actually have like a scientific consensus on what has exactly caused this, because timber fires don't get hot enough to do this to these kind of stone forts. So they're like they're not sure exactly what melted these stone forts. But like since the discovery of all these and what they thought was native just to Scotland, they've found all sorts of these vitrified forts across Northern Europe and in Turkey that they just thought were part of the landscape now, that they've now realized are like these melted forts, and they have no idea exactly how this happened. People have put suggestions, but it's interesting because like no one truly has like an explanation that is. Everyone's like, yes, we agree on that. They have really no idea, because it takes upwards of 3,000 degrees to burn these
melt the
fucking
rock.
stone forts.
We talked about it briefly when we did like the ancient atomic theory.
Yeah.
Is that like back? Because there is other there's forts in like India and stuff that seem to be melted for no reason. And like, did they have nukes back then? That's the goes of the theory. Like they were able to develop some type of like tactical nuke back in the day. And they were to be able to melt stone.
Dragons.
Yeah. Well, Dragonfire, that makes sense.
Or they had directed energy. Just a directed handheld energy and just fucking melt.
No, that
range.
makes sense. That because everyone knows I'm back on the flat Earth. I believe it. So that's before we had too much carbon dioxide. That's when the dragons would come over the ice wall and still attack us. But now there's with 5G and 4G, they won't come anymore.
And affects their navigation systems.
I learned that on Rumble.
Rumble sounds like the place to be. What are we doing?
Dude, it's
Fucking
awesome.
brilliant.
I love it. Unhinged.
We should just live stream just on Rumble.
But so there's I wish it doesn't connect for some reason, but I tried. There's tons of like historical conspiracies of these things existing. So it's kind of cool that you're like, there's stories of this stuff existing, and it's like now in today's day and age, could we have, perfected that kind of technology?
Absolutely.
You could talk about like mythology, like fucking Zeus and Thor and that kind of stuff too, like lightning bolts from the sky.
Yeah, any type of pretty much like weapon.
I mean, but we do
godly
have
weapon.
lightning bolts coming from the sky.
Yeah,
Either way.
It's
direct
Zeus.
energy.
Lots of
It's directed
Direct
energy.
energy.
It's directed
Said it was from
electrons.
Rumble.
Yeah,
We cited Rumble
straight
on
from the
that.
sky. Zeus chucking bolts down.
So this entire time, lightning has just been directed energy. It's not
From gods.
Yeah, according to that one old guy on Rumble. I mean,
yeah, but
directed
also we should
energy.
all be dead if according to him.
Yes, that's true.
We should all be
He did
dead.
say, like I said, if you aren't on the Rumble
You know what?
train,
He's
get
not
on.
wrong. We all will die one day.
It's true.
And it will be because we all took the vaccine when we were 30.
And we have been getting closer to death.
We are slowly
getting
getting
the
closer
vaccine.
every day. Just tiptoeing our way up there.
All right, fine.
He's all right. He's got it.
All right.
He's on to it.
Okay.
but he can go back in mythology and be like, okay, there's all these things. And then you can also find plenty of examples in pop culture, science fiction of like the concepts behind directed energy weapons. You know, so we already said Star Wars,
Independence Day, man.
Battlestar Galactica, Independence Day, like 100 other things. And like those aren't like, as far as like right now, probably one of the more advanced uses for directed energy weapons is like as a defense system. Like I think actually this year, Israel just put out like a kind of like a working, like they had like a working system where they're calling like it's the Iron Beam, where they have the Iron Dome one right now, which is basically ballistic. So you fired 2 missiles and they track down missiles that are incoming missiles and then knock them out with other missiles. But the idea is like they have this other system they've been working on.
They fight missiles with missiles.
Right. But the other system that they're working on is the Iron Beam, where it's basically a laser defense system where you would have
So what you're saying is it is the
That's Jewish space
them.
laser.
They have it.
It is a laser. But it really like they basically load them up on the trucks. These things are huge. They look like giant spotlights. And you drive them around, and they have their own generators, or you can hook them into electrical grid. And then you would drive them out to wherever you need them to be, and then they would. Instead of spending, $10,000 to $20,000 per missile, you're spending $2,000 for each shot of that laser. Apparently,
A bunch of Duracells. Just as many Duracells.
That's actually just injecting Duracells.
You're directly connected to the rabbit. The rabbit's banging the drum, and you use the fucking laser. It's like
D batteries are just ejecting out of this laser gun.
Yeah, I mean, we've all played Apex Legends. It's like you pull the thing, you have to reload it. Every time you use the energy cartridge, you got to pop it out, pop it in, and back in. That's how it works.
that Iron Beam is actually like a collaboration, because I was reading because Lockheed Martin is like the leader in the States, and they're they're a collaboration on that project, and they call it
them and Raytheon, I believe. Yeah,
they called the Iron Beam collaboration, and it's between them. So it's like it's a U.S. like Israeli joint effort to develop this fucking ground-based laser that can shoot missiles out of the sky just by pure heat.
the Russians have one too, that Perservet. Have you heard of that one?
I'm sure, I haven't heard of that one, but I'm sure everyone's working on their own version of this kind of tech.
Well, they openly talked about using it in Ukraine.
To shoot down drones and shit?
Yeah.
That's
why that, and I'd imagine they're probably pulling some Havana syndrome bullshit too. Like,
well, I mean, technically, those anti-drone guns are kind of directed energy weapons. The ones that basically shoot out like high frequency radio waves at a drone to basically disable it, or trick it into just landing, and then you go and disable it manually. But yeah, those are also technically directed energy weapons,
right? And then Lockheed Martin, they have them on. They have airborne versions called like AHEL or the TALs. And then if they're mounting on a ship, they call it the Helios. So there's different versions. And on the one on the ship, because obviously it's on a fucking destroyer, it's a gigantic fucking laser. Like huge. Like so the amount, because especially if that ship was like nuclear powered, like with like a nuclear reactor, so like limitless energy, you could like power that baby up and just like if you're gonna put a laser weapon on anything, a ship. For a big one, ship's number one. Like space would be awesome, but to get it up there and build it and assemble it and keep it up there.
Here's my question about a ship-based laser. I guess you're shooting at air targets. Would be the
sure you can shoot at air for sure, but definitely if you're within on the horizon, you can see the land.
Because I'm saying like, yeah. Because I was like, unless the Earth's flat, and then you're
you can shoot forever.
Yeah, if the Earth's flat, then just like you wouldn't be able to aim.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, then it makes more sense.
No, the air density will get in the way. That's why you can't see.
Oh, atmospheric refraction.
No, not refraction. Not refraction. It's just density of the air makes us you can't see. That's why you can't see.
Just bounce it off the ionosphere then.
There's no ionosphere in a flat Earth. It's a sphere. Ionis flat? How does that work? Come up with a word for that? Ionosphere, Ionis. We'll have to ask David Weiss when we get him back on for part 3.
Yeah.
Ionis plane.
Ionis plane. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's it.
Yeah, so as far as like the Iron Beam goes, like, yeah, they kind of try to sell it on like the cost efficiency thing where they're like, yeah, instead of spending this much money, you'd spend this much money. But most of the like the investors or the people who are going to be like, yeah, I'm going to foot the bill for this. They're like, yeah, that's how much it costs to like shoot those down. But what about to maintain these? Because you're going to need like a whole new section of people to kind of maintain these lasers. And like, just maintaining shit on a ship takes a lot of stuff. Like, I can't imagine what maintaining a big fucking laser takes.
I have no idea.
To get it all, that's like crazy. You'd have to have a specialized entire like unit on the ship.
I don't think so, man.
Yeah, but long term, it's going to pay off, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I've had
you'd
one
have
of
to
those
be cleaning that thing every day. Like you'd have to be cleaning that. Yeah,
I've never once listen, Dan. I've never once ever in the last 8 years had to change a battery or clean or do anything to my laser pointer that I play with my cats with. Not once. And it's worked like a hot damn.
Just scale it up.
Every fucking day. Right? Yeah. Just fucking boom, fired up, works perfect.
I've been blinding planes from my backyard for 8 years and nothing. It still works.
Yeah, I still got my green laser from Thailand. Works. I don't know if I've changed batteries in that thing too. Oh, I have once. Right? Yeah. And I'm fucking
once.
It's a laser show in my backyard every night.
You can manage a battery change. That's a good question though, Dan. Like how much because if it's that powerful of a weapon and producing that much heat, I guess it would have to be made of like fucking tungsten or something that does not melt.
But wouldn't it make more sense to have it in space then? Because then you're not then you can just eject the heat into space.
You still have the maintenance.
Space debris and shit running into it.
Yeah. Well, radiation, just like on
just the weight of that type of device. And say it has to be made of like tungsten or something super high heat metal that doesn't melt at all. Yeah. To get it up there, that's what SpaceX has been doing though. They're just dropping one piece at a time and assembling it up there.
Oh, like Voltron.
Dude, Elon Musk has every characteristic of a supervillain.
He is 100%.
So he's fine.
Except not smart.
Not smart.
What?
He's super rich.
He's not smart.
Well,
he's pretty smart, I believe.
I mean, you'd have to be somewhat smart to.
He's not smart.
I mean, maybe because you're really smart.
How can you wreck an entire internationally recognized brand like such as Twitter and run it into the ground?
Has it ran into the ground?
Yeah.
I actually don't know.
They're advertising things down 60%.
What about all his other businesses, though?
What about everything else he's done?
I think he bought Twitter.
But he doesn't run those businesses. Like, this is there are other people who run those businesses. He has engineers who run those businesses.
I mean, smart people don't.
I'll disagree with you. I don't. He might have made a mistake. I don't think he's makes him stupid.
I think Twitter X or whatever it's called is in infancy, and in 5 years you might look back and be like, you know what? Maybe he did some stuff right.
Well, maybe that's his fucking origin story as a supervillain. Twitter X destroys him. He needs everything's been going too good.
It's been going too good. That sets him off. He needs to make money.
The fucking that's I get it. It's a worldwide app, but like views on the Carlson Trump interview during that thing did numbers. The numbers amazing,
huge.
It killed any kind of ratings that anything like stateside network TV does on the app live, right? So it's like
network TV in general is just way down.
They got something. They got something. Whether or not they can harness it as a power for good or
evil remains to be seen,
or whatever. But there's definitely something there where it's like, you're getting an audience unlike anyone's ever seen.
No, it's a good question because actually, Elon Musk, and he started PayPal. That's why he got all his money. But then he started other. What is he an expert? I don't know. Is he an expert coder? Is he an expert?
He's an expert fucking entrepreneur.
Just an expert businessman that hires the right people for the right job.
I mean, he has the money.
And I think
his dad running an emerald mine. Yeah, so I mean,
his dad was uber rich. His dad was uber rich, I think.
I mean, that's Tony Stark. His superpower is money. Well, he's also a pretty smart guy. So
Tony Stark's one of the smartest guys in the MCU.
Yeah. So it's but I don't know what Elon Musk is not that smart.
Well, if you have that much money, you could hire the greatest people with the greatest minds, learn from them, and be almost as smart. So I actually don't know though.
I don't think he's a dummy. I think he would surprise you if you sat down and had a conversation.
There's no chance he's stupid.
I don't think there's any chance he's stupid.
The guy could be sitting on millions fucking just doing nothing. Sorry, billions with his parents' money and just doing sweet fuck all. And he's choosing to do shit with it.
He bought some new hair. He's going to space.
Oh, it looks good too.
He's building space lasers. Next thing he's going to start is a asset management company and start buying up all the burnt shit.
Now, if he didn't buy that fucking hair, he'd be looking real Lex Luthor.
Yeah, if he'd be
right. Like
he'd
then
be
we'd be like,
pure
okay,
bald by
listen.
now.
Yeah.
Like if he looked more like
the Boring
Bezos.
Company.
They're still making blowtorches or
I
whatever.
think they built like, I don't know,
Boring
like
Company.
1 kilometer of tunnel or something.
Oh wow.
I don't know actually.
lot.
I have no idea what you heard about. They're trying to make all those tunnels under LA and like try and merge it with
That was a good
with
idea.
Fucking Nevada and I mean, it seems like a good idea. Just is that possible? I have no idea. Can we make tunnels?
He could have just built like his own
City?
high-speed rail. He should just get into high-speed rail. Like
He should start selling the monorail to small town USA.
Anyways, we'll have another episode on how stupid Elon Musk is, but
Well, we'll wait till he turns evil.
yeah, we gotta wait till he turns evil and that all comes tumbling out.
The Boring Company is currently, just so you a little update, the Boring Company is currently working on a 68-mile tunnel network under Las Vegas.
Oh, they're in Vegas now.
That's supervillain shit. He's gonna be Mole Man.
Under Vegas?
sure.
How far? Hey, Area 51, S4 was not far from Vegas. It's all linked
shit,
up now.
yeah. Right from McCarran.
No, he's drilling holes. He's drilling holes under Vegas. How long until he goes up under those casinos and just drills holes? Fucking
Robs
Ocean's
the bank.
15.
Ocean Richard.
just
Die Hard.
right? Like,
What
look
is
at
it, Die
what's
Hard
going on.
3 or 2.
Yeah, it's Die Hard 3 too. Yeah, Hans Gruber's brother.
Yeah, he comes out. He's like, "My
Were they from
actual
South
name is
Africa too?
Elon
Or are they from
Gruber."
Germany?
I think he was German, but
Where were we? We got off on Elon Musk there.
We got a
but
little
I don't
sidetracked here. We're all a little on the wine and nine here.
So so this idea that the space-based lasers have kind of come down into the conspiracy ecosystem is kind of something that is like, if you kind of go back, like it's not that prevalent until you hit like the California wildfires back in 2018. When that started, there was a lot of conspiracy theories being thrown around about this. Like it kind of just like naturally popped up into this thing, out into like the conspirasphere. I don't know what conspiraplane. So I'm sorry,
Conspiraplane. Yep. Conspiraplane.
Yeah.
So as this theory kind of developed, like a bunch of like websites, they noticed like people have gone through and like kind of tracked this out. People, people who study conspiracy theories, I guess sociologists and whatever, and kind of like track down these things that seen like how it kind of developed into its own little like kind of mythology. Now, if anybody remembers, like back in like 2018, 2017, this was like QAnon early days. Like I know QAnon is now ubiquitous and everybody knows what it is. But back then it was like,
this was when Q was cool because people are like, "What's Q? What is it?"
The Q crumbs.
It was never
the Q
There was some
crumbs.
mystery and some intrigue, right? Where are these drops? The drops. Can't wait for the next Q drop.
Yeah, this is back when QAnon
I can't wait.
was still
I'm
like,
getting some Q-tips.
It's coming. The storm's coming. It's coming. It's right over the horizon. It's coming. It's still coming.
Yeah. Storm's brewing. Those were good days.
That was the peak of conspiracy culture.
Yeah.
So a lot of websites pick this both nationally and internationally, like picking up these ideas that the North California's, what did they call it, the Camp Fire, which was one of the deadliest fires in the history of California, along with the Woolsey and Hill fires, I believe, that they weren't caused by what the
utility company.
The prosaic explanation being wind patterns or the brutally dry conditions that they had or the worsening effects of climate change. But no, that these were actually caused by some type of directed energy weapon that is owned by some nefarious elements within governments or world governments or overarching, breakaway society such and such. And so
Are we sure Elon Musk doesn't have a fucking directed energy device?
We're not sure.
Maybe he already is a supervillain. We don't know.
you said he was making flamethrowers. Those are technique.
It's not a flamethrower, Dan. It says right on it.
Yeah, it's a directed energy weapon. It's not a flamethrower.
It's taking, fuel, ejecting it through a nozzle, directed energy. Boom. Everything is.
It's a directed energy weapon. Just like a super soaker. Super soaker is directed energy.
If you fill a super soaker
use the
with
loosest
jet
definition.
fuel and then have a lighter taped to the end, you have...
Well, it's kinetic energy.
You have a
just like
directed
using air
energy
pressure
weapon.
to push it, and it's directing it. So, directed energy weapon in the loosest definition of the word. So, if you kind of take that stuff at face value, then you have like this idea that these lasers are being used for some reason to either start a fire or strategically start many fires for reasons that are unknown to us, or it's that something.
It's easy, Dan. It's easy.
There's a couple of theories being thrown around about why you would start these fires. And so like one of them, I think this is the one that always kind of popped up. So they ended up merging, not only taking the space lasers, but also the FEMA death camp theories and making the FEMA boogeyman, where the United Nations was basically going to put everybody in the death camps and then, to centralize their global control over the world.
And they almost did it. If it wasn't for those pesky liberals. Or no, the pesky Republicans. Who saved us? I don't know. John F.
JFK.
Kennedy.
Yeah,
Sorry,
JFK.
He's still coming back.
That's after he got resurrected?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Along with his son. It was a father-son effort.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Yeah. You wouldn't know this unless you follow alt history. Dude, it would be so funny to write like in 20 years from now, just kind of have that stuff jotted down and then write an alt history book of what happened in this time. You'd be like, well, actually, JFK got resurrected and protected everyone in the States from the FEMA camps.
Yeah, because a giant space laser going around and starting fires is much more plausible than the one stated cause of the El Dorado fire, which was a pyrotechnic device used in gender reveal, which that was pretty nuts.
Well,
Very remembers that.
There was that one, and there was also aging infrastructure, like really old, knocked over by severe winds that caused fire. But space lasers way cooler.
There's also like weird things where it's like there's a YouTuber that goes by Dutch Sense, I think it's called, and he has what he does is he used to be an earthquake guy. He's just into earthquakes. Like that was his thing. Just liked earthquakes.
So it's his fault.
And then slowly,
it's his fault.
Quakers. Quakers or Quakies. That's what we
and he was just like an earthquake guy. I like earthquake, and he eventually started to do conspiracy stuff when he found a pattern of like fires in Idaho that were like perfectly spaced out, kind of like in this like arching pattern across the state. And he was like, that's just interesting to me. Like, that's interesting. I think it's weird. He's like, that's either a natural pattern by Earth or that's a man-made pattern. Like it's kind of it struck him as interesting. So he overlaid, out of curiosity, satellite trajectories when those fires started. And there's like satellite paths that are almost identical to the cascading paths of these Idaho fires. And he's like, oh, this is so cool. He's like, are the satellites starting fires?
You're saying satellite, but what you really mean is death ray.
Death ray.
But he even never says he like, there's one video where there's a guy talking, and I don't know if it's him, but there's a guy talking. He's like, maybe it's just the reflection. Maybe the reflection of these things we don't realize are starting fires. I'm like, I don't think the space reflection is causing.
Did he say what satellites
fires.
they were? Because a lot of times, if the satellite is registered, you can look up what satellite was above.
No, it just showed a bunch of flight satellite paths, so it didn't really say.
Starlink. It was Starlink, and Starlink was beaming down.
You got it.
We got it. Starlink.
It's Elon Musk.
We have to go cross-check all fucking Starlink satellite releases with wildfires.
Because Do you remember when they first came out and they were highly refractive and they were actually blocking the like amateur astronomers from seeing into space? And they were like, you need to do something.
But they were distracting, definitely.
Yeah, they had to like start.
Well, they were distracting so they get all their death lasers up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right? They were causing fires everywhere they went. And Elon's just like, ooh.
No, he's doing it intentionally.
And he's buying up the land.
He's a super villain. It's a
But if
big
you
dumb
think
super
about it,
villain.
like, because if you think about just on the wildfire, California, and I'll talk about the one like we've had, because we have devastating wildfires in British Columbia. But it's like
Canada in general this year was brutal.
Like, and the thing with wildfires is you have a wildfire season's over. There's other things that happen in those areas that have wildfires, because like a lot of times, like what we saw 2 years ago, we had devastating wildfires. Then we had a really bad snowfall. And because there's not this foliage and root systems to absorb all this moisture, what happens is that the moisture all goes in the dirt and it causes devastating fucking landslides. And these landslides came and they actually knocked down Highway 1. Like in numerous positions, like crippled BC.
It wasn't snowfall though; it was just straight rainfall.
Just straight rain. It's the same thing. Like, and that rainfall is, and those landslides are caused because of wildfires. It's like a cascading thing. So it's like, to me, if someone were to tell me, if 20 years from now,
well, ash is what do they call it? Where it repels water.
Hydrophobic.
Repellent.
Hydrophobic sounds right. So when you have a huge fire and it burns like the whole hillside and all the ash is kind of there before stuff starts to regrow and it rains, it doesn't absorb into the soil the same way and it just all comes fucking flying down there.
Water off a duck's back.
Yeah. Now, if you in 20 years you were to tell me like, hey, actually, space laser technology, like, in 20 years from now, we get documents released, space lasers are real, and Russia was actually starting forest fires. It's like, okay, well, like starting forest fires, like, is fucking crippling. Like, it crippled British Columbia. Like, it crippled us.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell you guys, but it was, I'll tell you guys now, it's actually the U.S. space lasers, and that's what you get for the War of 1812 for burning down the White House, you assholes.
They've been planning it this whole time.
We waited. We played the long game.
Yeah, payback's a bitch.
Wait till they're just built up.
Hey, you're hyperinflation? That's us.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. We're burning your country down from the inside.
James Dolly Madison says hi.
Your escalated housing prices? That's us, baby. We're coming in. We're going to swoop in, buy all the land.
We're bidding.
Canada is going to be
just
America.
A fucking American plant.
Trudeau's an American plant. It's been the same. It's been the way the whole time.
Yep.
Yeah, because of the low exchange rate, it's all a discount to us.
All right, hey, before we go farther, we're going to take a quick beer break because I got to pee and I got to go get another beer. So we got more to talk about, and we're going to be...
And by beer break, I mean you guys can see us because I don't have this set up properly.
If you're watching live, you're going to see all behind the scenes on this current version.
Oh, hey, we're invited to the Johnson Summer Pool Party this Saturday.
Oh, Saturday? But that's when the Blinds guy's coming to give us a quote.
Oh, I already found everything we need at Blinds.com. They're totally online, so we don't have to wait around all day just to get a quote. And they're sending us free samples.
Well, Blinds.com sounds like a no-brainer.
Shop Blinds.com's 4th of July early access sale now for up to 50% off site-wide. Up to 50% off at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
We're back.
So Canada and the United States are not the only places that suffer from wildfires, as we mentioned before. Africa. I mentioned Africa, but I was like, I don't know why people don't they try to forget the Australian bushfires from the 2019-2020.
That's just South Africa.
So it's also South. So yeah, I guess it would technically still be Africa, I guess.
Yeah.
But those ones were really bad too. But it's funny because the directed energy weapon theory popped up during that time too. Like it also popped up right after right after that. So there's a bunch of photos and videos circulating online purporting to show this bar of light right here is a direct energy weapon. This is the laser beam right here. You can see it. And then later on, a lot of those photos were found to be either altered or to be miscaptioned from something else that had been like a photo that had been pulled from like a fucking like a plume burn or something off of an oil rig or something.
Well,
like that.
the famous one from Maui is an edited SpaceX launch.
Yeah, that's one of them.
But they want you to.
So they want you to know.
Yeah, and then one of the reasons that people had they were saying like, why would they start these fires? So one of the things was that some people had taken like a map of like a kind of proposed high speed rail line like on that part of Australia's coast, and then they kind of overlaid it over there, and basically that's where you also get the 15-minute city thing from, is that that they were gonna they want to burn out all this stuff so they can put it in a high speed rail, and then they would once you put the high speed rail, it makes it easier to control these cities in some way. It ties
into what we talked about last week too. It's like their 15-minute cities are big on owning nothing and loving it.
I actually kind of recall now when the California ones were happening that someone was sending us like something about that similar thing about like it has to do with these high speed rails, right? Like these fires.
During the California, that was also a reason like
that are still not built.
That they still not built. Well, Amtrak is still kind of holds a monopoly, but they're slowly cracking open. Eventually, they will be done. And then we'll have our own. Yeah,
Joey Joe in our Discord sent a map of the fucking wildfires and the proposed map of the high-speed rail route. And it's like identical. The route of the high-speed rail and where the California fires hit. If you were to overlay them, you would be like, yeah, that's pretty fucking in the same exact areas that you were trying to run these rails.
So also feel like the most probably the populated places, like where people live.
You got to clear the land.
Sure, you got to rip out all the infrastructure so you can rebuild it, and that costs money. Yeah.
Well, I think about it. So if you light it all on fire, not everyone has insurance. It's going to be cheaper in that way to burn it all, pay the insurance fees, but not everyone's have insurance, and then we'll relocate them for cheaper somewhere else. It's a business decision to melt these places to build the high-speed rail. In their mind.
Right. Yeah,
it's all hey, you got to follow the money. In all these conspiracies, it's always follow the money.
Yeah. It's always 100%. They, them.
Yeah. Would it be somebody else? Like, is there a different plural
them.
They, them
pronoun that you would use? Like,
no, I'm just saying it's always they, them.
We're always talking about the they.
Yeah.
They would do this.
So I said it's always they, them.
It is.
I don't know. What's the joke?
Should we be using the formal usted days or something like vosotros?
I don't know. But it's interesting to me. Like I was just kind of looking at like where they're going ahead with this high speed rail. So it's like, yeah, like Zell says, like, could it be possible that, it's strategic arson?
No,
some of these cases.
No, what the crazy thing
would it be like, because if you think about 60 years ago, 70 years ago, and you'd be like, hey, you heard a story now, hey, the mob came and fucking burned a bunch of land, right? So they could, push ahead their fucking construction projects. You'd be like, yeah, that was crazy. But now we're like, there's no way that would happen today.
No, I'm all on board with that. That's exactly what happened.
It's just fire is so notoriously hard to control that it just doesn't seem like a great weapon to do it with.
No, it doesn't.
If you want total annihilation, then
if you don't care, if like we're going for this area and all this is collateral damage, and fire is the best option because it's fueled by wind, and then. You know what's crazy is that just recently, like last week, like State Farm and another big insurance agency said in California they're not going to issue any more policies to do with fire.
Well, it's the same thing with.
There's like we're not going to do it.
Farmers.
Sorry, we're not going to do it. We're doing this because we project the devastation to be so severe that it's not profitable for the company. So we will honor our current ones, but we will not issue any more insurance policies for any private building. What?
It's the same thing as in Florida. Like Florida, all the insurance companies are pulling out, not for fires, for hurricane
and shit.
But Yeah, they're pulling out for there too because they know that the hurricanes are just getting worse.
We've decided it's no longer profitable to insure you for anything.
Yeah, our business.
Fucking
It's like,
mini impromptu mongoose here. But on my last night shift, we were leaving the hospital. Cue the music. Like fucking midnight. We were leaving the hospital around midnight. Cross and Harvey kind of looked to the left, noticed like fucking giant flames coming from right above where we live. So I'm like, told my partner, I'm like, fucking pin it. So we drive over, get on the mic with the dispatch, being like, listen, there's flames. The forest fire has been out there. Like, we got to go check this out. As we're getting closer, we go all the way up Horizon, which is right up past my house. We're the first on scene to this fucking like multi-million-dollar mansion with like no exaggeration, 60 to 70 foot flames. Just fucking, the flames are golfing. All right. Like Ricky would say, they were golfing. So we run up, starts fucking banging on the door. We get the guy out. There's only one guy. Evacuate the neighborhood. By that time, a bunch of fire trucks showed up. They start working on the house. The whole area ended up getting evacuated. The guy that we initially evacuated was sitting on the fucking back of the ambulance, right? And we were talking to him. His buddy bought the house a week ago. All right. Well, within Kelowna, about a week ago, there was a giant firestorm. Absolutely no fucking way you're going to get house insurance for fire. So we bought this fucking, like, I think it was like a $1.5 million mansion with a Ferrari in the garage. Thing burnt to the fucking ground. Zero insurance.
What's this? What's the suspected cause?
I had started in the garage, and it sounded like the fire was shooting at us. So something electrical, I'd imagine.
Sounds like gas.
It's funny because I did see the article about that one, and in my head I went, I bet it's arson, because I thought everything burned probably around it, lowered the property value, and they were like, "Fuck."
No, that whole area was untouched.
Oh, really?
What's great?
Yeah, the whole area, that whole part of Horizon, not a single house burnt down in that.
Crazy thing about that is I went golfing in the morning. I had like a 7:07 tee time, like first tee time of the day, and I seen the smoke billowing. I was like, we should just call, because sometimes like people don't call because like the fire was up there. Maybe the fire came back, so we call. And I was like, yeah, there's a fire up. It's on the hill.
You fucking rat! What a snitch you are.
So that's funny that was the fire, because I thought for sure it was the forest, and then I hung up. I told him, I was like, it looks like it's somewhere up West Kelowna Estates, Horizon Drive. It's hard to tell.
It's exactly where it was.
And I was like, well, and that's all I can tell you. She's trying to ask all these questions. Like, I'm calling from the highway. I'm actually illegally talking on my phone right now. Okay. So
yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, I've been to a few structure fires. I've never seen anything like that before.
But it looked like the smoke, when I went, the smoke was just billowing. I was like, it looks like it's whatever it is. There's no fire. It's out. So whatever it was, like, it's toast. I had no idea it was a house though. I thought it was part of the forest.
Yeah, no, it was crazy.
Crazy. There you go. Directed energy.
100%.
From space.
Yeah, it only makes sense.
What does that guy do for work? Is he part of
I don't know.
Type of three-letter agency or something?
Maybe. Ooh.
He's like, finish my house off too.
No insurance though. He's fucked.
Did his last name end with an OV? Like an OV or anything?
I don't know.
Right?
Didn't get that far.
Yeah, just moved here from Russia.
Yeah.
Wild. So, I mean,
let's move on to the hot topic. The hot topic.
Oh, let's go.
The Maui
let's
factor.
Fucking go.
Right? Burned.
Awful.
Like,
awful.
Man, a lot of people died. It's super sad. Like, it's just,
yeah.
Like unbelievable. Hurricane force winds.
It was like
fueling a fucking fire unheard of.
I mean, it was the biggest fire in the U.S. in how long, Dan? Like fucking 100 years?
Yeah, at least 100 years.
I mean, it wasn't, the hurricane was 500 miles away, but the winds were gusting at 60 miles an hour, which is 100K.
They canceled school that day because it was so bad.
Yeah.
Like, they canceled school that day.
Because of the winds?
Yeah. Because they were worried about down power lines and stuff like that. So they canceled.
Again, not to get too off topic, but like, what the fuck? Because like for us, like the windiest time we've had all year was the day of the fucking firestorm. Literally the windiest day we had all fucking year.
That's actually incorrect. That's incorrect as well. The windiest day was about a month before, where it flipped all the boats.
Oh, sorry. The second windiest day. Right? Like we're barely ever deal with wind.
The only natural disaster that Kelowna usually gets is a windstorm every few years, which does capsize some boats and does some property damage. And then once every 20 years, we get a fire that breaks city perimeter. And this was the year. But yeah, the Maui one, man, that was just like, that's pretty much, I've been watching this for the last, because we've talked about this now on like co-conspirators and a couple other after hours and stuff. So I started watching like the coverage of what happened. Just an insane fire. The wind's coming down the mountain, push the fire into the city. There's only a couple ways out. Just like worst case scenario happened.
Burned all these beautiful properties owned by like generational fucking homes that have been owned by like native Hawaiians that have had that property forever, that have refused to leave that property despite people trying to buy them out for several years. And then they lose it to a fucking massive forest fire.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the conspiracy comes from of this one is like because of the incompetence going on and seen in helping the survivors. And, you know, you hear stories of like buildings that weren't impacted by the fire being handed eviction notices. And you're like, well, how are we getting eviction notices now? Like you have
people
to
are already
house all
buying
these
up
other
these properties.
people, right? Like this is crazy.
Well, think about when properties burn is like, you still own the land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you can't.
Now you got fucking Oprah coming trying to buy all your.
The property is
up.
not for sale when it's burned. Like you would have to decide to sell it.
Right. And then you have corporations coming in and offering to buy up these lands, you know, and we seeing all that. But it's one of those ones where it's like with this, it's like, you know, it's when people are like, how could this happen? And we can't get food, and you know, we're only supplying them with $700 each right now. Like, how is this happening? Like, never attribute to malice what you can attribute to incompetence. And if anyone listening to this has ever worked in any kind of form of government, unbelievable incompetence. It's unbelievable, right? Almost to the point where you're like, this shouldn't be happening, but it's just a level of incompetence you've never even seen or imagined.
The safer the job, the more inefficient it becomes. And government is the ultimate form of that. On every level, because you get to be the positions become inflated. There's too many people. No one talk. The different branches don't, like different levels don't talk to each other. And it's fucking crazy. And they just keep growing. And a job that's being done from one guy is done by 10 in the city. Like just local government, just like there's one guy fucking digging, 9 people looking like that. And that just ramps up.
Even on the tagline of our video, or the image of our video for this live stream, one of the images circulating was this image of like a light beam coming from space and hitting Maui, right? And it's like, this is a directed energy. They fucking started it, right? And it's like, this is circulated widely. It's on Rumble. It's on Twitter, X, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's all over the place. And Dan, is this a true picture? Are we looking at a space laser, or is this a Photoshop job?
Well, it's not a Photoshop job. It's actually a miscaptioned one, I think is the one that you're referring to. And that one is actually, it's actually a picture taken from, I think 2018 is where people tracked it down to. And it is essentially like it's like a controlled burn that occurred at like an Ohio oil refinery in January. And like the beam of light that you see kind of going up is actually just, we've talked about it before, but like the aerial phenomenon, the atmospheric phenomenon, a light pillar, like you get one of those when there's like ice crystals in the air reflecting light and up or whatever. But yeah, that's essentially
that's what scientists want you to
pillar.
Yeah. Okay.
X-ray. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
what's more
what
believable, make believe ice pillar or laser beam from space.
Right.
Let me tell you something that might sound more unbelievable than that, but is 100% true, which is extremely bizarre to me. You guys, you know who, I'm going to butcher his last name, but John Pelletier, have you heard of him yet?
John Pelletier?
Well, he's the the Maui or Leana? How do you say it again?
Lahaina.
The Lahaina city police chief.
Oh, I know exactly what you're
Do you know what he did before?
Oh, I
you know.
know
Where he was working before?
I know who you're talking about.
In Lahaina?
Yeah.
Wait.
I do.
Question.
Yeah.
Was he perhaps like the police chief in Las Vegas during the Vegas shooting by any chance?
He was the incident command.
That's what it was.
Covering the strip at the time of the Las Vegas shooting.
And he moved to Lahaina to get away from that tragedy, only to find himself in the thick of a bigger one.
Wild. What are the chances?
And
supposedly this guy has like FBI fucking clearance and a bunch of other crazy shit. Like, it's fucking weird.
Because
and then conspiracy theorists jump on that because they're like, man, there was some fucking questionable decisions being made in Las Vegas, right? And a lot of people point to that guy of being like, because we heard multiple shooters, this and that, right? Like, and then there's questions, and we've never talked about Las Vegas shooter. I mean, there's probably been enough time now where we could kind of like dive into the ins and outs of that case because it is an interesting.
All the tentacles of conspiracy have either been disproven or the stuff that remains, there's a lot behind it. We could talk about it now.
Yeah, but what the fuck are the chances of that? That's so like this guy is involved in 2 of the US's mass casualty events in the last 10 years? Like, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, and then that's why people be like, what a coincidence, right, to be a part of. And that's why like a lot of conspiracy theorists and stuff, like a lot of Rumble YouTube.
Well, you go down the fucking rabbit hole of the 15-minute cities and these properties. People like fucking BlackRock and Vanguard are trying to buy up these properties from these native Hawaiians. They won't sell them. And then you look at a lot of people suspect Lockheed Martin of manufacturing possible directed energy weapons.
Well, they do manufacture.
BlackRock and Vanguard own stocks in fucking Lockheed Martin.
What's Black?
You go down these fucking crazy rabbit holes.
Management companies, of course.
But you can see
you'd own stocks in 2 of the most profitable companies in the United States.
Yeah, but you can. We're connecting the web here though. Like, you can see why people go down these fucking rabbit holes. Is what I'm saying, right? Like, there's all these fucking connections.
If BlackRock and Vanguard get a hold of these properties highly valued, it's going to increase the stock value for their shareholders.
Sure. Was that actually proven true that there were those things? Do people have documents showing that? I can't remember.
Yeah, they were used in the Iraq War. Rumsfeld was on record saying that they were using.
No, I mean the Lahaina buying the properties, like trying to buy properties.
Oh, I don't know. I know Oprah is. I don't know anybody else.
You can watch. There's.
Well, it's somebody like signed a contract or somebody.
I don't think anyone signed a contract or anything, but there is videos of like locals saying that like, I'm not selling my property. You can ask me a million times, like on TikTok and stuff, and various other social medias.
There is no doubt that these asset management companies see the crisis
100%.
and
they're like,
because they're on record of saying that like their company goals, BlackRock especially, it's like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street are the 3 biggest asset management companies in the U.S. Like, well, they're international really, but they're based in the U.S.
Yeah.
And by
BlackRock is killing
by
Canada.
2030, they're predicted to own 60% of residential buildings in the United States. 60%.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
And then, so when someone comes, you go to sell a home, right? And there's people putting bids in, and you get a bid that's 20% higher, and it's from an LLC. It doesn't say BlackRock. It will say either a number or a holding company name. It's probably BlackRock. It's probably like if you trace it.
Where's the country? There's a country. I think it was either France. Was it France? I can't remember. One country is actually kind of putting the kibosh on that, where they're starting to tax people. Like, they're starting to tax like property purchases by companies or whatever. Like, they're taxing them more than
for
they are
residential.
by, like, just single buyers.
I mean, it just makes sense that.
Well, the fact that it became like that buying residential properties became an actual like investment.
It's a business,
But like if you think about that area, like that area,
Worst
they
idea
licking
ever.
their chops, right? Like
some of the most beautiful properties in the world.
In the world, and you're just like, they're like, right? We can probably get for pennies and dollars because everything's destroyed. Everything.
Because they destroyed it. They know it was all part of the plan, man.
Well, they want to build up too in Lahaina. They want to build up. They want to build the towers. They want to develop. They want to do all that stuff. And right now, Lahaina is like Lahaina was a beautiful old city with like an awesome old historic downtown. And it was like as close to the traditional Hawaiian culture, I guess, probably you could get on like a bigger city on Maui. And now it's pretty much like thousands of buildings were scorched. Like it's gone. Unless you're on some of the, because the thing about these old buildings is there's no fire code on buildings that were built 100 plus years ago. They have if they have insulation at all, it's probably like fucking newspaper or fucking sawdust. And then so a lot of the homes that didn't burn or just got minor damage are new builds with stucco and like asphalt roof and like built for fire resistant. Like so the fires don't spread through neighborhoods like that. But the old city of Lahaina was mostly old buildings and it just caught fire.
Gone.
Ate it.
It's crazy, man. So yeah, like the asset management companies, 100% is not a conspiracy. They see the opportunity and no crisis goes to waste. And they're going to be there and they're going to try and buy. That's their MO. That's exactly what they do. Now, the conspiracy goes to like, are these companies so big and so powerful that they have the ins with these Lockheed Martin and other companies that they can either, if they don't do it themselves, they know what's going to, like they have an in to...
Can they manufacture their own crisis to take advantage of?
That's the conspiracy. That's what it is. That's what people always talk about is, can they manufacture this crisis to take advantage of it? Or do they have advanced knowledge that's going to happen and they swoop in and fucking buy stuff? So, I mean, that's where the conspiracy runs rampant because there is these companies that they operate in the legal framework of the United States and other countries, and the fact that this company is a legal entity and it's allowed to grow endlessly forever. If we don't, unless it gets to the point where it's like a Standard Oil thing or like, you have to break this fucking thing up because this is taking over
we used to have really robust antitrust laws. Not so much anymore.
Yeah, I think, they slowly degrade.
There was a certain faction within the government that thought that
Biden
hamstringing some of our those kinds of regulating bodies was a good idea. Defunding those parts of the government that are actually meant to regulate some of these businesses. Somebody thought that was a good idea.
Well, it's interesting because like when I look at it like that, and it's like you always like, nah, they could never, like someone could never. But it's like if you know a hurricane's coming, you know which way the wind. Like, man, you can look. There's the Windy app. And I can look 2 days and they can pretty much estimate which way the wind's blowing. You know what I mean? Like which direction it's coming. If a storm's coming and you're like, if we started a fire here, and like Zell said, like we know a lot of these buildings, like if one goes and there's a fucking heavy winds, they're all going. And like the other thing too for me is I'm like, man, what doesn't get a lot of coverage that is 100% out there is like, we talk about serial killers and stuff, but there's people and shit.
Firebugs, baby.
Firebugs, man.
We see it every year here.
Right? That are legit. Like they go out there and what they want to do. And for anyone to sit there and think there's not someone out there right now who's like looking at those kind of apps and being like, holy fuck, we're about to hit a windstorm and it's blowing in this direction. I bet I can fucking cause a huge fire. There's fucking crazy people, man. There's crazy people out there fucking doing that shit.
Yeah, they were.
I was watching a video a few years ago. A guy literally watching him start a fire. Like the cops caught him on camera. He started the fire. The cop was showing me on their phone of him starting a fire and just bombing down a hill, running away from it. He started to fucking the fire ended up getting to like 500 hectares.
Crazy.
Right. And they just love that. They just love to watch the destruction.
Some people just want to watch the world burn.
This is true.
Yeah.
Well, they should just get a job on the space laser team then.
You should.
Well, no, you said it's a bunch of maintenance. You got to be cleaning shit all the time. Doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, it's not for junkies.
That's where you start and you work your way up.
So, like, let's get back into like specific directed energy weapons. Like what I know we've talked about some of the issues like with the heat and stuff, and we would have to be. But what are some other issues that might be in, like, if this technology exists or doesn't exist, what are some things hampering this technology?
Just the sheer scale of energy needed to fuel like a space fucking laser
challenge. Yeah.
Like to put it, let's just say you put a fucking laser in space. It's up, whatever, it's up 80, 100, 200 kilometers into the atmosphere. And then you had to generate that energy in enough force to be able to shoot it down through the atmosphere and light something on fire. I'm sure it's doable, but just the sheer scale of that project is insane in space.
It would have to be at least as large as the International Space Station, probably.
For sure.
And if it has its own like power supply, like, I mean, even if it's like, okay, so you have some kind of compact fusion generator inside of it or something like that, like those things still need maintenance. So you would still have to fly people up there to like fix it. Like to go up there and like check make sure the material's still fissionable, like make sure stuff's still working.
Or you just have to have new ones available. You have a 2-year life cycle, then it's dead. You got to throw another one up there. You get it ready. There's all you got. You always got.
We have to launch a new one into space every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
Yeah, every 2 years.
It's a single use. Use it. It's gone. It's burnt out.
Because when I was
just eject the Duracell into space.
Yeah.
When I was looking at
China just eject shit into space all the time.
Get rid of it. Throw it up there.
It's gone.
Let it blow up.
Falls down somewhere.
But I was looking into some of the potential, like the prototype projects we have, and there's like, can't remember what it's called exactly, but pretty much a satellite solar array that beams energy down to a ground-based receiver instead of using generators at like forward operating bases and stuff. If you're in a conflict or whatever, you shoot the energy from space, you receive it on the ground, and then you use it there instead of running diesel generators or anything. Yeah. So that is being developed, but that's like, there's not enough energy in a direct beam to cause like devastation. It's like a continuous power supply down to the ground, which is in itself is actually super fucking cool.
Unless you make it huge, like can die another day, and it's the Icarus project, and it's like just like giant lasers shooting down airplanes and shit.
and then
you need James Bond to stop it,
dude. I ran into people saying like, "What did we just launch into space last year? The James Webb Telescope. It's a gold-plated mirror array." Like,
oh yeah.
And I was like, "What are you talking? This thing is that thing is like 600,000 kilometers from Earth. Isn't it like way out the fucking?
Yeah, it's way out. Like even
there.
if you're gonna put this laser like in low Earth orbit, where it's probably would be number one, you could still see it. Like if you could see the ISS, like you can see the ISS.
If this thing's big enough to be able to shoot a laser from space,
you'd be able to see it like with the naked eye. And if it's big enough to shoot a laser,
what are those points in space just far enough from Earth that they're not affected?
The Lagrange points. Those are way out there.
They're out there.
Yeah, but if you were going to develop this kind of, I'm just saying,
you have no idea how what they're capable of at this point. Though they've been developing this technology for so fucking long.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have no clue.
Like I said, like before,
well, then they could just be anything.
The sky's
absolutely.
This pyro. Well, like I said, the sky's device in what did I say? The pyro.
These could just run on chaos energy. They just draw power from the warp. I don't know. Like,
but we don't know how they've been developing this shit since the fucking medieval time.
I'm sorry. Okay, we should have qualified this. Been like based on what we do know about lasers. What we know about
what's
lasers.
Available.
What are the logistical challenges? Not that they could be anything possible.
Because it's true. I agree with Andrew. You could go this way. Where in what was it, 1995, when they said, "Guess what? We got this plane. It's called the Blackbird. It can fly 85,000 feet. It's invisible to radar, and it can take detailed pictures of something at the ground." We've had that for a while. So now we're in 2023. What did we have 20 years ago? Is that coming out now? What do they have? What is it 20 years advanced from now? Like what is allowed to leak?
Yeah.
Well, we subscribe, or I don't want to say we, a lot of people subscribe to the fucking Tic Tac and shit like that being our own technology being tested and us not knowing, nobody can comprehend what it is because that's technology we have no idea that it even exists.
Super advanced drone or something.
We've been developing this shit for even longer than that, so who knows?
It's true. It's true.
Right?
But from what we know and what seems to be possible with what we know, having a laser that powerful from space would be a massive project. Huge
undertaking.
Yeah.
Not just the physical limitations, not even that, just of lasers in general. Like if it is a laser, like it's still subject to like atmospheric interference. Like you would still have to be like, hope that it's a clear day and I want to start this fire.
Yeah,
getting it through the atmosphere would be a whole big problem. Plus, you probably also see
you have to go back to if it's a military operation, having it on a ship that doesn't come to port very often. That makes more sense to me. If say there was some advanced laser, it's on some one ship that everyone signed to some NDA for the next 25 or 50 years or whatever it is. It's on that ship and it's on that ship alone. And then we have this new technology.
Start fires.
What about even though, like, does it have to be that huge that it couldn't be on some sort of high altitude like high altitude flight that just takes off, goes, fires on a target, and then just keeps going?
Well, the energy, well, I guess if you're just using it to start fires, no, because you can start a fire with pretty much anything.
You can do it with a drone. Yeah. Like you can do it with a drone.
You could start a fire with smashing rocks together if it's dry enough.
Yeah. So yes.
like for real, if it hasn't rained in 3 months and you go to the woods,
doesn't
and
take much.
You have a fucking quad that backfires in the dirt and it hits some fucking grass. You started a forest fire. Like
you could have a Lockheed Martin or a BlackRock employee go out there and smoke a cigarette and throw it out there and start a fire.
Oh, buddy, I seen a video of these people, these workers working on a pool of these rich people's house, and it's like middle of the day. This guy's smoking a cigarette in his break, throws the cigarette in the bush, and then at 3 in the morning. Like later, that's like at noon. At 3 a.m, that bush just ignites into a fucking.
Or you could just unload
fire.
a big pile of mulch because mulch catches on fire all the time. Like you just unload a big pile of mulch somewhere and be like,
you could dump a pile of mulch and let it fucking fester for a month, and then it's going to explode and light the forest on fire.
Nobody would be the wiser.
Like as far as starting fires does not take a lot of energy, right?
No.
So if you're just using this laser and its only application is to start a fire, I'm sure there's a handheld device that could just do it, like a fucking laser. Like I'm sure there is.
Are you talking about like a flamethrower or not a flamethrower?
Or a flamethrower, not a flamethrower.
Yeah. There's a lot of devices that could easily and quietly start a fire.
But all these directed energy weapons we're talking about that are being developed for military applications are for like blasting metal rockets out of the sky. You need more energy to blow up, to get through the casing and do all that. But if you're just trying to start a fire, it doesn't take much. So if you don't want boots on the ground and you have some fucking drone that has some type of laser, I don't see why that's not out of the realm of possibility that you could light a fire with a laser from 30,000 feet or
high altitude. Because as you fly by, you could have it directional where you're like, you have some sort of like high powered UV laser that just fixes on a point and you just fly by.
I don't think UV is right for starting fires, but
I'm just saying, listen, I'm not a fucking laser guy.
Okay.
I thought I fucking made that pretty clear. Okay.
You're not an expert.
You own two different. You got a laser pointer and a green one.
I am a laser guy.
Pretty sure you're a self-proclaimed laser guy.
Listen, Dan burned me with a purple laser one time, and that's all I know. Purple lasers burn. That's all I know, right? So if they're flying by high altitude with a purple laser, right, and they're just fixing it on a spot as they're flying over the horizon, just fixing it on a spot, and it's like, well, and then maybe something starts smoldering and they just leave, right? And it's like, maybe that starts a forest fire. Like, if you just think about it in the context of like, we know the climate is getting hotter, we know where the earth is getting warmer, things are getting drier. Is it not a really easy way to cause fucking just chaos in a country than to just start a fucking forest fire? Like, it causes so much fucking chaos.
Yeah.
Right? Like, unbelievable amounts.
The crazy thing about the Lahaina fire is that as far as like forest fires, like hectares or like square kilometers or something, is a tiny fire. It was really small.
Yeah.
But just because the where it started, the winds, how they're blowing, and the concentration of people in that area, it just was like the perfect storm of just destruction. It's so sad.
I mean, I know we're trying to make the point that it's like it would cause chaos, but like relatively it doesn't. Like it's on the larger scale, like the United States, it's like it doesn't really stop anything from working. It doesn't stop like infrastructure. It doesn't stop
very
production.
Rare.
It doesn't stop
it's rare.
anything really. It doesn't stop the world turning for the United States or anything. And it's mostly the state. Like the state has to respond to it, so it's going to be them. But also, like California can do it because like the fucking fourth largest economy in the fucking world. Like they can do it. Plus, also they get federal assistance. But I mean, it's like those funds are earmarked for those kinds of disasters. So it's like, I mean, I get that people are like, this is something that can be used against other countries or stuff like that, but it's really hard to kind of follow that reasoning to be.
You can use a directed energy weapon to light a energy that cannot be directed. You know what I mean? Like in Canada this year, if you took all the forest that was burned, it's like the size of a country. It's like 2 Portugals or something. It's like a big chunk of land, but relatively it did little structural damage. if you take all the fires that were burning, you could go isolate a handful, like the Kelowna one, North Shuswap, and there's a couple in Quebec that did some damage. But for the most part, they just burned through the woods like they normally do. And they've come end of September, early October, they're going to put themselves out. It's going to snow. And in 100 years, if you were to come back and you didn't know there's a fire there, you wouldn't even know there was one there. Like you'll come back and the forest is regrown. The
15-minute, the North Shuswap fire too. I'm glad you brought that up. I kind of forgot about that. That one's been popping off online and stuff with right-wing conspiracy groups and various conspiracy groups because like
no one lives there.
No one lives there, and that's exactly. And they're like, there's videos of them turning hydrants and then being like, the fucking hydrant's not working. They fucking turned off our water and they turned off our ability to fight these fires. When in reality, those hydrants there are fed from a water tower that has already been drained by everyone fighting fires. And there's no more water in their reservoir that's way up the hill that gets
They're not pumping from a natural source. They're pumping from a predetermined amount.
Yeah, from a tower. And then it goes, turn it off for these fucking 15-minute cities. It's like, no one wants to live in the Shuswap anyways.
It's a great summer place.
Maybe if you had a high-speed rail, people would live there. It's like people would move there because
in Canada, you could burn all the forest in the world, like all the forest in Canada, and we're never going to build a high-speed rail ever. Because we have too much population over too big a distance. It would cost to be astronomical. We would never do it. It is never going to happen. Ever.
The thing with these like directed energy weapons that like really, really affects like where I think I'm like, okay, well, like if you think about the most famous use of like where people are point to directed energy weapons like 9/11, Dr. Judy Wood being like, these things were eviscerated, and she makes some interesting points. But I'm like,
that's a different tech, though.
If that's a different tech, but even that, if that's used in 2001, I'm like, I think we would see other examples of this kind of fucking destruction anywhere else. If that was the thing being used as some sort of space-based directed energy, because it's not like there's not enemies foreign and afar, where these things could not be used on now or in the last.
But when you think of the military industrial complex, like that's an industry. They make money off these wars. You wouldn't want to just eviscerate your fucking enemies because then you're not going to be fucking making any money.
You want to create enough chaos that it lingers for 20 years, then you pull out tragically in a terrible way and then start one somewhere else.
Yeah. Start a new one.
Yeah. Or proxy one somewhere else. Spend a lot of money on it, send a lot of weapons. That's as they do.
It's such an interesting one to talk about because like to me, the interesting aspect to me is some of these ancient or historical like evidence of kind of directed energy weapons, and then like Zell said, like, what do we have now? Like if they're working on it, we don't know what the military's up to, and we're 20 years behind. Like, what do they have now? That kind of intrigues me. But as far as like, our own governments fucking blasting our own cities to pave way for these 15-minute cities? It's just like, we haven't seen that. Just like, Dan said earlier, like in these, they were going to round us all up in these fucking FEMA camps. We never saw that come to fruition. These 15-minute cities are, for the most part, not coming to fruition. Like it's not none of this
quickly, at least.
I mean, the area, the places are still quite literally fucking smoldering. Like, give them some time.
Yeah.
I'll put the fires out, then we'll see about these 15-minute cities.
Right, and it's kind of interesting. So I guess time will tell on these kind of things. But it's like, for me, I have a really hard time getting past. When you watch some of these people that really believe these are like targeted events, and I can see why. I can see the avenues of why they believe, and they follow some of the money of like BlackRock and Vanguard and some of these interests, and you have the people saying, I can see why, but I just don't understand. I'm like, I feel like it would be used elsewhere as well. Like
Sure.
Unfortunately, I do believe that, like, you know, like Zell said, no crisis goes to waste, and these fucking money managers
they're
are
coming
just, like,
in.
they're on it, man.
Oh, yeah,
they're
big
ruthless,
time.
and that's why they're you know, they're these huge conglomerates of money, is because they waste no opportunity, and they, you know, carpe diem, they seize the fucking day. Whenever anything happens, they're like, we're on it. Can we buy these properties to rebuild? Right, like
there's no doubt about it, and it's not a conspiracy. These companies, that is the company, asset management. They want as many assets as they
That's
can
how they've
get.
evolved. They are these apex, these economical apex predators.
And
like that's what they evolved into, and we allowed them to do that.
If we cannot draft like a government that can block the growth, like to a point, the growth of the corporation, then they're just going to grow forever until the corporation is so powerful, is more powerful than the government itself, and the corporation itself, or a conglomerate of them, becomes the government. The new world order,
They're
baby.
pulling the strings, buddy.
Because the crazy thing about BlackRock was his name, Larry Fink. He's on the board of the World Economic Forum. He's the fucking guy. He's up there with he's all about that 15-minute cities, the Great Reset. We have to do better. We have to do all this stuff. And he's in charge of trillions of dollars of this company that owns trillions and trillions of dollars of assets. And he's directing countries through this World Economic Forum. He's giving advice. Maybe he doesn't have direct influence, but he has indirect influence, saying, this is how we want to do, and this is what the future we want. And and then people come on board. There's like 135 countries saying like the next century. What's the fucking thing? It's like the new century for the world. There's like 135 countries, United Nations have joined on to fight climate change, do all these other initiatives. But at the very top, economics makes it all go around. And these companies that own all the assets are at that board and that give the advice.
Pulling the strings, man. They're pulling the strings.
For sure. And that's all.
Right.
So until you can limit that corporation's growth to a point where it's like, okay, you already have $10 trillion. Your dividends will be this now, or rather going to break you up like Standard Oil, or like if we do, because right now they're operating under the rule that we've made. Like our governments would be like, you can just, you fucking do it, go for it, and they do it, and they employ tons of people, and they make tons of jobs, and create tons of wealth.
And
they also manage everybody's 401ks. Like
they own like 50% of the S&P index. These companies, they own like 50% of the entire fucking market.
Right, and they start to get, and the crazy thing is like as they get more powerful and quicker and quicker, right? Like exponentially as they kind of consume these assets,
must get bigger.
And that's the thing, must get bigger, right? Like that's a scary thought. It's like and we've talked about it a couple times this last couple of weeks of like, we've created these beasts, and now we're like, we can't be upset about the things we've created because like...
we can be. We can
absolutely
be upset about it.
We need to do something. We need to do something to stop these things.
Eat the rich. Let's go.
Eat them.
Well, that's not going to fix it.
Eat them. Purge.
Nope, that's not how that works.
Larry Fink's a pretty fat guy. I mean, he probably tastes pretty good. Nice roast.
Well, that's crazy. It's crazy to me that someone who's on the board can like direct other countries, and because he's directing other countries on economic issues that would directly benefit
allow him to buy more asset.
Which would allow BlackRock to get bigger. Right? It's like, so it's very
like that,
very crazy.
Like that side, like the directive energy weapons is interesting in the fact that we are developing them, and they do exist, and we are implementing them, and we've talked about it before, like the Havana syndrome, where they use like directed like sound weapons to like make people feel sick, and like, so we can use sound frequencies or energy frequencies as weapons in a way, but like just like anything, there comes a point where like there's a diminishing return in the amount of energy needed to make it fucking actually like boom. To scale it up is insane. So if you're going to use a fucking space laser to blow up a city, it'd have to be the size of a city. So like it's just not. You can't. It's
even
not
like
working.
it's projecting heat is something, but like you can project like radio frequencies. I mean, that is what radio is projected energy.
Yeah.
But you can like, because they have some that like with like I remember the one they had like the riot control concept, where it's basically that if you had like a high frequency array that you would direct at people, and it would microwave, it would boil off the moisture like
Your
on their skin.
you
So it
feel
feel like you're burning. Like,
Yeah.
you feel like you're burning, and it would, as a deterrent.
You feel like you're burning. It feels like you're like you need to itch, like you have to scratch your skin. And I mean that as far as like crowd dispersement technology, that tear gas, sure,
you're not
tear
making
gas. People
anybody
fucking pull at a
spontaneously-
respirator and they can stay there, but you fucking shoot them with that thing, it's over.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
But
you
they're
can
not
do.
spontaneously combusting, right?
No, you're not burning them up, but you're like,
Yet.
Not yet.
Wait till you turn up the dial. Turn it to 11. Then they're fucking combusting.
Well, I mean, in that sense, though, if it's short range, high energy, yes, I'm sure you could get to a point where you could probably just blow people up with this energy. But it's not. Is that useful? What's that useful for? You're just gonna melt crowds. Just start their fucking limbs start exploding off.
Well, when we start uprising to eat the rich.
Yeah, they start blasting us with that directed
They're
energy.
going to turn us into goop. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Or they just use guns.
Good
I
thought.
don't know.
Guns
That's why
seem
they're
much
taking away our
cheaper.
guns.
All right, so what you heard it here, we have to invest in our own counter-directed energy technology. So when the government starts shooting us with directed energy, we can shoot back.
And
Start
you might be
stocking up on
asking,
Duracells.
you might be asking, how can I contribute to, the people's directed energy weapon? And we have a solution, patreon.com/alien theorist podcast. Donate to us, and a portion of all proceeds will go to our own research in directed energy weapons that we can counter directed energy weapons, so we can fight the current directed energy weapons.
So listen, because right? We're dude, DEWD.
I like it.
Directed energy weapon defense.
Yeah.
Dude.
Dude.
Yeah. We're developing.
Right, donate to dude.
Donate to dude. At patreon.com/alien theorist podcast.
I mean, our working concept right now, we have a working prototype. It's basically an umbrella with a bunch of mirrors on it. But it's pretty
a
good.
blue umbrella with a bunch of mirrors.
It's got to be specific blue, though, or it's not going to work.
Specific shade of blue.
Somehow deflects all heat and just gets...
This week we got a theory of the week. Send in a nice 5-star review. It's easy way to get a theory of the week. Write a thoughtful. If it's really short, you're probably not getting it. Right? Just write,
Right enough.
if you're feeling it, write a 5-star review. You probably get your theory of the week pretty easy. 5-star review from J Dalton 18. 5-star brought out my inner theorist. I listen to you guys at work every day. I binged every episode back to back and have just now caught up. You guys have made me question my own opinions on certain matters and helped me develop a new one. Every single episode is like a new adventure, learning about pickle babies and Braden's foot fungus. Please keep the shows coming and keep my work days interesting. That's from J Dalton 18.
Nice. Don't pull out your inner theorist at work. You might get arrested.
Oh, that might be a big day for that guy. Is that the same guy who won a T-shirt from our live last night? I think it might be.
That's pretty dope.
It might be.
It was.
Let me just check the Gmail here if that's him. No, Jay Helms.
Not quite.
Different guy.
Not quite.
Jay Dalton 18 from the United States. Thank you for that 5-star review. We really appreciate it.
Fuck yeah. As Braden said, you got to head over to alientheorist.com, hit the Patreon or Supercast tab, and get your fucking name read on the show. Pretty much sponsoring the episode if you're read at the end here. That's pretty much what you're doing. Helping the show grow, helping to keep the lights on. We appreciate it. This week we have Joseph the Whiskey Man, Kashawin Masalth, Carrie B, Steve Will, Invalid ID. Invalid ID. Check him out. Steve Jones. Maybe I copied that one. Jones M. Chip Medine and Gilbert Leary. Thank you very much for supporting the show. We appreciate it.
And before I just signed up, but again, what we've been saying, question everything. You should question the official narrative, and then you should question what people are telling you is the alternative. Question everything. As we always say, keep those eyes on the skies.
Question everything.